It's time to be brutally honest. These are my biggest mistakes in bourbon so far. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So that's right, today, taking a little bit of a different direction and talking about the biggest mistakes I feel that I've made in bourbon so far. I think that some of these, if not all of them, are relatively universal, but I want to talk through how I feel about them now, kind of in retrospect, as I think about some of the mistakes I've made, what I learned from them, and maybe how to avoid them in the future. So hopefully this helps you on your journey. Maybe it can be a little cathartic as we all kind of think about and share what mistakes we've made that we don't want to make in the future. Would love to know in the comments below what you see as maybe some of your mistakes, or if any of these 5 that I've listed out today really resonate with you. I think we should have a conversation about it. All right, without further ado, let's dive into the list. So number 1 is probably the most universal in the crazy whiskey world that we live in, and that is falling for FOMO. So I feel like, as somebody who was new to the hobby in the last 5 years, I entered the world of bourbon and whiskey at the time of peak hype, peak FOMO, bourbon boom exploding all over the place, millions of bottles, it feels like, coming out every year that everybody wants. Starting to maybe taper off just a little bit here in 2025, but I still feel it. So bottles like Wild Turkey Master's Keep Voyage. I spent almost $300 on that bottle, and ultimately, I don't think it's as good as the price dictates there. That was one where, I saw a post that this was available at a local place near me, and I raced right over there, felt the FOMO draw me right in, knew that it was a super expensive bottle, had never had anything from Master's Keep before. It was pretty early in the release, so I didn't have a lot of reviews to go off of, and I pulled the trigger. Definitely one that I probably should have waited on, because I still see bottles getting sold of this in some random stores, so probably should have waited and would have seen that it wasn't maybe the quality that some people were hoping for. Still a very good bottle, just not at all worth that price, and the FOMO is what drove me to grab it. That's happened numerous other times, but that's sort of the main bottle that comes to mind when I think about it, and I allow that FOMO to still sort of creep into my life a little too often. So I want to learn how to detach from that a little bit this year. Okay, so number 2 is an interesting one, and that is not getting Glencairns sooner. So it seems like a small thing, right? The glassware that you use to taste your whiskey, but it actually makes a huge difference if you ask me. So I started out, and probably for the first 5-ish months, I was just sipping out of rocks glasses, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let me just be clear. You can enjoy your whiskey however you want it. But when it comes to having a bourbon YouTube channel and tasting and having that full experience, I really do think nothing is better than the Glencairn. There's a reason so many people use it. And because, honestly, I think it helps the nose, definitely sort of wafts those flavors up for you, allows for a pretty smooth, controlled sip. And I just feel like it took my ability to actually learn about and taste and discern the flavors in whiskey a lot better. And I wish I hadn't waited. I kind of thought, oh, should I spend money on this so early in my whiskey tasting career, for lack of a better term? And I hesitated for probably a couple months longer than I should have. Okay, number 3, getting away from affordable whiskey. This sort of goes along with the FOMO and the bourbon boom, but I found myself mostly toward the end of 2023 into 2024, a lot of the last year especially, just really only buying limited release allocated stuff. In a sense, it's weird. I feel like as you build your collection, you get to a point where you start to feel like the only things worth adding to your collection are those limited things. And that's just not true. The more affordable available options, there's still a lot out there that I haven't tried, and they're just as worthy of your consideration especially given, budgeting. Like, what do you want to add to your collection over the next month? You could get 4 or 5 new flavor profiles at the more affordable budget sort of friendly category, or you could get one allocated release that has a lot of hype around it. Of course, part of it is I have a bourbon YouTube channel, and honestly, those allocated bottles do drive a lot more views, so I feel that pressure, but I don't want to be ever too far adrift from still being sort of anchored in the affordable whiskey category. So definitely got away from that a little bit too much and want to get back on track. All right, number 4 for me. Letting whiskey cause me stress. Seems like an interesting one. This is more of a psychological one. I think that this is meant to be a fun hobby. I do the YouTube channel because I genuinely enjoy this process. I don't release more than 2 videos a week. I'm not trying to drive this channel to, so many tens of thousands of viewers. I just like doing it and enjoy the process and hope you guys come along for the ride. But I let whiskey cause me stress a lot. I will be scrolling on my phone looking at Facebook or searching liquor pages and just like wondering, oh, should I spend my whole day? Should I go hunt this one down? Should I spend my whole day going to these 5 places because I heard there might be something there? And I start to feel literal like stress and anxiety around like, I need this whiskey, or I should be doing more, or I should be going out and racing out to get this thing. And that's just not the way it's meant to be necessarily. There's a little bit of thrill in the hunt that I think is healthy, but literally allowing it to cause me stress is not great. The other aspect of this is standing in a liquor store and seeing a bottle at a certain price and just kind of agonizing over whether or not I should buy it. And when your hobby gets into that realm, maybe it's a little time to take a step back and remember, like, this is just liquid that you drink, you share, it's great, but it does not matter as much as a lot of other things. So hopefully that's a perspective I can bring into 2025. All right, number 5 is probably the hardest for me to admit, and that is being a bit of a jerk in the pursuit of whiskey. So like I mentioned, I'll see posts, I'll be doing my hunting circuit. I've definitely driven too fast because I was trying to go get a bottle. I've probably cut people off just even walking through a store, being kind of blinders on. I'm going to get my bourbon. I need to be the first one there. Not great. I have definitely prioritized hunting whiskey over more important things in my life at times. And just none of those are sort of representative of how I want to exist in this world of whiskey. I want to be somebody who really enjoys it, shares with others, and has a lot of fun doing it, but I don't want to be a jerk. And sometimes I've leaned into that. So in a sense, that might be the biggest mistake, because it means compromising on some of my values in order to get a bottle of what? Get a bottle of Old Forester 1924? Like, is that going to change my life dramatically? No. But sometimes I act like it is, and that causes me to not be as aware of others as I should be. So those are what I consider my 5 biggest mistakes in bourbon so far. Falling for FOMO, one too many times for sure. Not getting Glencairn sooner and upgrading my tasting experience. Getting away from affordable whiskey at times. Letting whiskey cause me stress, and then sometimes being a jerk in the pursuit of whiskey. Would love to know in the comments below, again, what makes your own list when you reflect on your journey so far? What maybe do you feel like were some of your bigger mistakes? Do any of these resonate with you? While you're at it, hit the like button on this video. That's what gets it out to the most people. And then if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the Bourbon Hutch, joining us for the rest of 2025. Hopefully it's going to be fun, happy, healthy, a wonderful year. Let's do it. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.